Today on Inquirer, Mayon Volcano now on alert level 3 as rockfall events increase. Albay provincial government orders mandatory evacuation of residents within the danger zone. Chedeng intensifies into a typhoon while moving northwestward over the Philippine Sea. Vice President Sara Duterte clarifies it was Imee Marcos, not House Speaker Martin Romualdez, who urged her to run in the 2022 national elections. And Denver Nuggets dominate Miami Heat to take a 2-1 lead in the NBA Finals. Good evening. Mayon Volcano is placed on alert level 3 with the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology warning that there is now an increased tendency towards a hazardous eruption. In a bulletin, Phivolcs explains that Mayon is exhibiting magmatic eruption of a summit lava dome with increased chances of lava flows and hazardous pyroclastic density current affecting the upper to middle slopes of the volcano and of potential explosive activity within weeks or even days. Phivolcs also notes an increase in the number and volume of rockfall events at the volcano since the alert level status at the volcano was raised from alert level 1 to alert level 2 on Monday, June 5. Residents in Albay share on social media photos and videos of the situation there. Just this morning, residents captured the continuous activity near the crater of the volcano. Last night, residents also captured a faint crater glow. Joining us tonight to discuss this development is Maria Antonia Bornas, Chief Science Research Specialist of DOST Phivolcs. Ms. Bornas, good evening.
Good evening po, sir.
Can you explain why the Phivolcs elevated the alert level over at Mayon Volcano from alert level 2 to 3? What were the indicators that Phivolcs observed that eventually led to this call?
Okay, so we have been experiencing a steep increase in the incidence of rockfall since the start of June, but there was a short increase yesterday to 98 rockfall events. These rockfall events, that was yesterday until this morning pala. And then the rockfall events were followed by the generation of pyroclastic density currents or PDCs. Our fellow Albayanos call this phenomena uson. No? So these are the most lethal of all volcanic hazards, especially from tall stratovolcanoes like Mayon. And this indicates that there is already very highly gassed magma that is being delivered to the top of the crater, to the dome. So the dome that was initially occupying the crater is being pushed out, and that's why it's collapsing and producing all of this rockfall. So we already have new material that has been that is being extruded onto the floor of the crater. So technically, that is already an eruption. And even as we speak, we already have 6 pyroclastic density currents occurring on 3 different gullies of the volcano. These are on the east, the southeast, and south of the volcano, and they have already progressed to a little over 2 kilometers from the summit crater.
Ma'am, in simplest terms, what does it mean when we place a volcano on alert level 3? It says here that there is increased tendency towards a hazardous eruption. It also says here that we might expect potential explosive activity within weeks or even days. So can you elaborate on that?
Okay, so at alert level 3, it means that for volcanoes mostly, there is already some form of low-level eruption occurring at the summit or at the vent of the volcano. And in the case of Mayon, that is typically a dome eruption or a lava flow eruption taking place at the volcano. This means that in a few days, probably we will see a progression of activity. We may see an increase in the rate of material coming out of the volcano, so we might see longer lava flows. And then if we have an increase in the volcanic gas uh, output of the volcano, we will see some fountaining events. And any increase in volcanic gas from the volcano, especially if it is a magnitude of order increase, that would certainly indicate to us that there is the chance of explosive eruption taking place, because explosive eruptions in volcanoes are driven by magmatic gas.
But are these different from what we usually see when a volcano explodes? You know, the lava flow and so on.
So Mayon is a kind of volcano whose behavior actually shifts. It shifts from very quiet effusing or putting out of lava flows to explosive eruption. So it can shift in either case. So in most eruptions of Mayon, the volcano displays both of these behaviors. So when we see this kind of activity from Mayon now, where it is growing a dome, we already know that at some point it will progress into lava flows, and that at some point there is a possibility of the activity escalating to lava fountaining and further explosions. So that means there will be more hazardous flows produced from the eruption, and that will actually endanger more people around the volcano. So at alert level 3 in Mayon, and in all other monitored volcanoes of the Philippines, alert level 3 means that the areas of highest danger around the volcano have to be evacuated. They are recommended for evacuation.
Ma'am, I think the best way for us to explain what's happening here at Mayon Volcano is by looking at the photos and the videos we are receiving from the field, right? So we received photos and videos from residents of Albay. I don't know if you can see that on your screen, but if you can see in these photos, there seems to be a glow at the crater of the volcano. Another photo shows smoke coming out. So can you explain what's happening in these photos?
Okay. For this photo right here, where you can see this is ash. This is an ash cloud, actually from a pyroclastic density current. The very first one that occurred today. This is at 6:18 in the morning. So what we can see is the ash cloud, and actually the main body of the pyroclastic density current is the base of this cloud, which is following the gully. This shot was taken from the eastern side of the volcano. So we are quite familiar with this, with the appearance of the upper slope. It's on the east side of the volcano. So the other picture, unfortunately, we have been answering queries about this. This is actually not crater glow. If you look at the star field of this photograph, this is a long exposure photo. So, nakaguhit yung star. The stars are forming lines. So, this is a long exposure photograph. And in long exposure photographs, you will see the heat being emanated by the volcano form incandescence. But actually, using the naked eye, there is no such incandescence at this time. We have 5 IP cameras around the volcano, and we have one of these cameras is actually watching the volcano at very close range. So we can actually see the crater. And there is no incandescence actually from the crater of Mayon Volcano. So this is a long exposure photograph. And that is why it looks as if the crater is incandescent. But it's actually not. With the naked eye, you cannot see.
Ma'am, is there a way for us to predict what would happen in the coming days? Of course, we cannot predict the exact how things would exactly unfold, but is there a way for us to at least predict what might happen in order for our kababayans over there in Albay to prepare?
Okay, we have to look at the monitoring data day to day, hour to hour, because the problem with Mayon Volcano, like many of these similar types of volcano, it is an open vent volcano. What that means is that it actually degasses a lot of its volcanic gas continuously. No? Every day, around 500 tons per day of volcanic SO2 is emitted by Mayon. And this degassing actually changes its behavior a lot, all the time, such that it's quite difficult to determine what sort of factors will trigger an eruption eventually. No? Like now, to tell you the truth, we were really frustrated with Mayon today because the sulfur dioxide is quite low. There is practically no volcanic earthquakes. We had two today. Yesterday, we had none. So it's very difficult to determine what it's going to do next. So in
Very
this case,
unpredictable, it seems.
yes. It's much more difficult to predict the behavior of a volcano that is always erupting versus a volcano that does not frequently erupt. That is much easier to predict. So what we need to do for Mayon is to look at the monitoring parameters all the time. So day to day, we have to assess if the sulfur dioxide or the volcanic gas emission is increasing, or if there are volcanic earthquakes that are making their appearances. We have to locate these volcanic earthquakes and what they mean when they are located at certain levels of the volcanic system. We have to look at our ground deformation monitors to see if the volcano is swelling, at what portion of the volcano is swelling. And we have to look at all of our visual monitors to see what are the surface manifestations of all of these parameters. So we have to look at this on a day-to-day basis. No? And what we can say is, we already know what to expect if we see certain parameters. For example, we know that explosive eruption might take place if there is a rapid increase in sulfur dioxide content being measured from the volcano. We know that deep magma might facilitate a more explosive eruption if we see ground deformation all over of the entire edifice rather than just portions of it. And by looking at the seismic, by looking at the volcanic earthquakes, what type these are and where they are located, we can probably guess what the volcano will do next. So we have to look at these parameters day to day.
Ma'am, just to wrap this up, what's the advice of Phivolcs for residents living near the volcano?
I think our fellow Albayanos already know, our fellow Bicolanos. They are so much drilled by the frequent eruptions of Mayon Volcano. For those who are living within the 6-kilometer permanent danger zone, I'm pretty sure right now they are being evacuated, if not already evacuated. So just listen to the authorities and pay attention to the rules in the evacuation camps. For those communities that are just outside of the 6-kilometer permanent danger zone, maybe up to the 8-kilometer radius of the volcano, please already prepare for probable or possible evacuation, just in case the condition of the volcano worsens or deteriorates. So we need to be prepared for evacuation. Also, it would be really helpful if our citizens stop, if we avoid spreading fake news. We've seen some of it already, in the social media. So this kind of fake news do not help. They tend to spread panic, and a huge part of our work for monitoring and keeping everyone safe is spent in combating this fake news. So let's do our part, cooperate with the authorities, and stop the spread of fake news.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That's Maria Antonia Bornas from Phivolcs.
Okay, thank you po and have a good evening. Ingat po tayo.
In related story, the local government of Albay orders mandatory evacuation of residents inside Mayon Volcano's 6-kilometer permanent danger zone. Chief of Research Division of the Albay Public Safety and Emergency Management Office, Eugene Escobar, explains that Alert Level 3 meant the mandatory evacuation of all farmers and prohibition of human activities inside the danger zone. Escobar says local officials were tasked to evaluate the evacuation centers and assess the needs in their respective areas. Albay Governor Edsel Greco Lagman says classes at all levels in public and private schools within the danger zone would also be suspended. The provincial government has not yet released the latest data on the number of villages and residents that had to be evacuated from the foot of the volcano. The State Weather Bureau says Chedeng intensifies into a typhoon while moving northwestward over the Philippine Sea. To tell us more, here's Pagasa weather specialist Benison Estareja. Benison?
Yes, good evening, Neil, and to all our viewers. As of 4 in the afternoon, the center of the eye of Typhoon Chedeng was estimated at 935 kilometers east of Central Luzon. It now has maximum sustained winds of 120 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 150 kilometers per hour. It's currently moving northwestward at 15 kilometers per hour. And based on the latest track of Pagasa, the Typhoon Chedeng will remain far from Philippine landmass, and hoisting of a tropical cyclone wind signals is still less likely. However, by tomorrow, we can expect the enhancement of southwest monsoon with its gusty conditions. Tomorrow, expect some gusty conditions over Visayas, Romblon, Occidental Mindoro, Northern Palawan, including Calamian, Kalayaan, and Puyo Islands, Surigao del Norte, Dinagat Islands, and Camarines. And within the next 24 hours, we're still going to expect some cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms over the province of Palawan. However, the enhancement of southwest monsoon habagat will continue and will even be greater over the weekend up until the middle of next week. So expect some light to moderate with at times heavy rains over the western sections of Luzon and Visayas.
Benison, I want to make sure that I got that correctly. Are we expecting Chedeng to make a landfall in any part of the country?
Like I said earlier, Chedeng will remain far from Philippine landmass, so there's no landfall scenario.
Thank you, Benison. That's Pag-asa weather specialist Benison Estareja. Health Secretary Teodoro Herbosa apologizes for his previous statements and seeks public support for his new role as the Department of Health's top post. Zakarian Sara reports.
Teodoro Herbosa took to Twitter to apologize for his past controversial statements while seeking the public support in his role as the country's newest health secretary. Herbosa, however, did not specify which statements he was referring to. The health secretary's apology came in response to a netizen's post on Twitter questioning why some kakampings, a nickname tagged for supporters of former Vice President Leni Robredo, are backing his recent appointment as health secretary. Herbosa replied both with thanks and an apology, urging everyone to quote-unquote start healing in the name of their shared love for the country even after the quote-unquote things he have said before. He also expressed thanks to supporters in a series of tweets, including DOH Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere, who served as the department's officer in charge prior to Herbosa's appointment. It can be recalled that Herbosa has been the subject of criticism in the past after several infamous statements. One of the most notable was his death by community pantry remark, which he made during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic when a senior citizen died while waiting in line at a community pantry. The backlash from this statement even ended with him resigning as Vice President of the University of the Philippines. Another one of his controversial statements was when he excluded healthcare workers who protested for substantial pay and benefit when he thanked the healthcare workers during the National Heroes Day in 2021. To recall, Herbosa was appointed by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. as Health Secretary on June 5 before taking his oath of office the following day. This is Zakarian Sara reporting for INQUIRER.net.
Vice President Sara Duterte denies claims that Speaker Ferdinand Martin Romualdez is a big factor in her decision to run in the 2022 national elections. Duterte says it was Senator Imee Marcos who urged her to run for her current office, reiterating that Romualdez had nothing to do with her decision to run for vice president. Duterte's remarks are supposedly in response to Cavite 4th District Representative Elpidio Barzaga, who supposedly said that Romualdez played a bigger part in her decision to seek the vice presidency. The vice president says it is an insult to thousands of people and groups who urged her to seek the country's second highest office and partner with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Meanwhile, several members of the House of Representatives rushed to show their support for Romualdez following Duterte's remarks. Santa Rosa City District Representative Dan Fernandez says that Duterte and the House's all-out support for President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. could be stronger without any squabbles. While not explicitly alluding to Duterte, House Majority Leader Representative Manuel Jose Dalipe says that they will prioritize Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council bills rather than any political distractions. Newly appointed Defense Secretary Gilbert Teodoro Jr. says China is more obligated to show kindness and earn the Philippines' trust while trying to resolve disputes in the West Philippine Sea. Teodoro says that the arbitral tribunal that decided on the Philippines' dispute with China over the West Philippine Sea was an impartial and independent body.
As a stronger country, it has the bigger obligation to be magnanimous and show trust, and to earn the trust of the Filipino people by conforming its activities to recognized norms of international law, which in our case is UNCLOS. We're talking about the arbitral award. It has already been stated by our two past presidents that our rights and our territory are defined by UNCLOS, and it has been stated too that this cannot be frittered away or bargained away by passages of administration or passage of time. The
Permanent Court of Arbitration ruled the Philippines has rights to its exclusive economic zone and that China's 9-line claim, which encompasses part of the West Philippine Sea, has no legal and historical basis. China previously said it does not acknowledge the ruling, maintaining that parts of the country's EEZ are Chinese territory. A 150,000 peso reward awaits anyone with vital information that will lead to the arrest of the suspect behind the killing of radio broadcaster Crescenciano Aldovino Bundukin. In a teleradyo interview, Oriental Mindoro Provincial Police Director and head of the Special Investigation Task Group Bundukin, Colonel Samuel De Lorino, says Oriental Mindoro Governor Homer Lito Dolor offered a 100,000 peso reward. Meanwhile, the remaining 50,000 pesos was from a concerned individual who declined to be named, according to Presidential Task Force on Media Security Undersecretary Paul Gutierrez. On May 31, Bundukin died after two unidentified men on a motorcycle shot him in front of a store he owned. Bundukin's son chased the suspects who figured in a road crash. One of the gunmen, identified as Narciso Ignacio Guntan, succumbed to head injuries while his accomplice escaped. On June 6, the Presidential Task Force on Media Security said a murder case is set to be filed against Isabelo Lopez Bautista, the alleged gunman who killed Bundukin. According to De Lorino, Bautista may still be in Bansud or within the province, adding that a tracker team has been monitoring the area for 24 hours. The Denver Nuggets dominate the Miami Heat for a 2-1 lead in the NBA Finals. Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray dominated the Heat, both dropping triple-doubles, leading the Nuggets to a 109-94 win. Jokic scored 32 points with 21 rebounds and 10 assists. Meanwhile, Murray scored 34 points and grabbed 10 rebounds. With the win, the Nuggets regained their home court advantage in the finals. Alamin naman natin ang mainit na balita sa mundo ng showbiz kasama si Ervin Santiago ng Bandera. Ervin?
Hi Neil at sa lahat mga kabandera natin all over the universe. Ito na nga ang latest Bandera Chika. Time heals all wounds. Yan ang sagot ni Sunshine Cruz tungkol sa maayos at magandang relasyon nila ngayon ng kanyang ex-husband na si Cesar Montano. Ganyan nga inilarawan ng aktres ang blended family nila ni Cesar. Sabi ni Shine, maayos na kasi ang relasyon nila ng dating asawa at naging magkaibigan pa nga sila ng live-in partner nitong si Kat Angeles matapos magkasama sa ilang mahalagang okasyon. Regular ding nakakasama ni Buboy ang 3 dalagang anak nila ni Sunshine. Huli silang nakapag-bonding lahat noong bagong taon ng 2023. Ayon pa sa Kapuso actress, it's about time nakalimutan na ang mapait at pangit na nakaraan para na rin sa kapakanan ng kanilang mga anak na siguradong super happy ngayon sa pagkakasundo ng kanilang mga magulang. Siniguro rin ni Sunshine na wala ng sugat sa kanyang puso kaya naman napatawad na niya ng bonggang-bongga ang dating asawa na masayang-masaya na rin ngayon sa bago niyang partner. Sa katunayan, dagdag pang sabi ni Shine, ang jowa pa ni Cesar na si Kat ang naging tulay para maging close silang lahat. At yan ang dahilan kaya naman punong-puno ng kaligayahan at pagmamahal ang kanyang puso.
Hindi naman imposible talaga. And kagaya nga ng sinasabi ko, time heals all wounds. It's been 10 years. I think it's about time. Lahat nga kung magsugat nga, gumagaling. What more you will. And kahit ano naman ang gawin natin talaga, he will always be a part of our lives. Especially sa mga kids ko. And it's a good thing na nakakatuwa kasi partner niya si Kat, napakabait. At siya pa yung nag-encourage na talagang magsama-sama yung mag-ama. So I think it makes a difference talaga pag siyempre nakakasama rin nag-i-inspire ka na mas maging mabuting tao pa at mas maging close pa sa mga anak mo.
At yan ang Bandera Chika natin today. Thanks, Neil!
Maraming salamat, Irvin. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.